Welcome to these sci-fi guys. What are we? We're a bunch of guys who just love science fiction. Before we start everything off, let's go ahead and put our little ticker on the bottom there. You can email us at these sci-fi guys at gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter or X, as they're calling it right now, at these sci-fi guys. And of course, you're watching to us right now here on YouTube. So anyway, with me tonight is my good friends Chad. How do I get him on here? Hold on. Remove. There we go. There's Chad and there is John. All right. So today, John picked our movie. Uh, we are actually watching this one here, Castle in the Sky. It is an anime movie. Back from what 1986. Then Disney did a remix of it in English, but they couldn't call it a Disney movie, right, John? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Do you know? Or
It just comes down to Disney really has the theatrical release rights, and they released the film and added the English actors, but outside of that, they don't really own much to it, which is why you see it on Max and other services in terms of streaming now. Disney just had the theatrical releases and the voices, and since then, it's still kind of been released otherwise through Studio Ghibli, which is kind of the parent company.
cool beans, cool beans. Hey, actually, going into this movie today, none of us had seen this particular movie. So, John, do you want to give us your thoughts, or I'm going to let you lead? You're the one that kind of picked this one, so we're going to go with you.
Well, sounds good. Part of the reason behind choosing this one is because I realized we hadn't really seen anything animated yet, and I searched through a list of films that said animated sci-fi films, but part of that brought some not real controversy, but some discussion amongst us. I think either after the podcast ended last week or even maybe during. But the first question I want to ask based on that is: after watching it, would you still classify it as sci-fi now that you've watched it, or would you not? Let's start with you, Dave.
Okay, for me, I would. Well, the main question goes all the way back to Star Wars. Is Star Wars science fiction or not? Star Wars to me is science fiction. It is more science fantasy, and that's kind of what I saw. This is more science fantasy. There was a lot of science fiction elements in it, so yeah, I would consider it science fiction. I enjoyed the movie very much so that's how I would go with it. Chad, how about you?
Yeah, I agree. It's it leans more to science fiction and also science fantasy, but it was pretty much out there explaining it different what you would think it was back in the '86. So yeah, science fiction.
That's fair, and that's kind of where I drew inspiration from, as well as seeing that it was steampunk. I knew it would have at least sci-fi elements for us. Now, I will say, compared to other Studio Ghibli films that I have seen, it doesn't really have as much of the fantasy elements per se, because a lot of the other ones are like hardcore fantasy, like demons, witches, that sort of idea, and just kind of mystical. So this one did fall more towards the sci-fi side, which is why I think it felt safe for us. But that being said, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, and I guess I would agree as well. I did kind of see the sci-fi after getting into it. Now, seeing the trailer, I definitely agree originally with like, oh, it looks more fantasy, but getting into it, definitely a lot more sci-fi elements. Now, that being said, with it having some sci fi elements, Chad, what would have been your favorite gadget or gizmo, kind of improvised technology you kind of saw throughout the film?
Uh, I agree with it. I like the robots. To me, is almost almost looks like the Iron Giant to me now. But I like the robots. I also like the flying gliders, really, or the looks like blimps. More they use more blimps than you will see in any other movie. So, but the favorite was the robots.
Fair point. How about you, Dave?
Well, for me, I really like the blimps. I mean, it just kind of um, yeah, when we watched Sky Captain, what was it last week? Um, it kind of reminded me of a lot of that of the steampunk beginning of the steampunk era. With you had these fantastic machines, of course, with propellers all over them. Not excuse me, not jet engines, but propellers, and And like Chad, I really love those little. Uh, I don't know. I call them little bumblebees because that's kind of what they reminded me of. They were little, they you could tell they were gliding a little bit, very open, wind in your face, uh, machines that just kind of flew all over the place. And I really enjoyed those. I thought that was a really nice touch, especially, bringing the science fiction aspect into it. A lot of the machines, even when Chad said, with the robots and all that, there was uh, definitely a lot of machinery, um, and one thing I really loved about this movie, I know it's kind of going off topic here just for a second, but I was an aircraft mechanic for many many years, so I love the fact that he was in there knee deep trying to fix stuff, fixing the blimp, I guess you could call it, while it was in flight. I just thought some of that stuff was really cool.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. And surprisingly, I actually have a different answer. I mean, I love the robots and I love the little flying bumblebees, but I was actually surprised when it first showed up on screen how much I love the war train. Uh, just to see that huge piece of machinery just chugging down the line with all the weaponry on it. Shockingly, against
Mhm.
all odds, that was my favorite piece of gadgetry. I think realistically, just because it surprised me how large and emphatic they went for that. But I mean, I can see a piece of War Machine doing that, especially going down cliffs. But also, in hindsight, I see why in the real world we don't use trains very much for war. Uh, the moment that
Well, we
rail's
we
gone, the whole
did back in the
machine's done.
day,
Mhm.
but I mean, you are kind of stuck to wherever the tracks go. One of
And
the
that's
things
it.
that really, when you asked us to watch this, one of the things I was shocked was, I mean, I guess just because I'm older, I was just like, look at the devastation that they're doing. I mean, especially with all those tracks, I was like, it's all being destroyed. It's going to take them years to get that stuff fixed, and they're just chasing after a girl with a pendant. I was like, what? Chad and I were talking about this offline. It took us probably, I don't know, for me, about 45 minutes. Chad said for about an hour. Uh, you know, to really start understanding and getting what was going on. You know, that was it took a little bit once we got that. Then that whole aspect of when they were being chased. On with the trains. Like the fighting downtown or whatever. I got lost on that. you know, some of that stuff was just I was like, what are they doing? But okay, let's just kind of go with it
Yeah,
and see.
Yeah,
don't
with
worry. Even as a fan of Studio Ghibli, even I was lost for a while too.
that fighting downtown was more. I was laughing because it's more of, hey, I could be the bigger guy. Like, who's got to be?
Yeah,
Who
it's
can puff
quite
out their
funny. Some of
chest
those were
more?
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I think if you guys watch any other Studio Ghibli movies, again, they're more fantasy style, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend any for this podcast per se. But yeah, they usually take a while to figure out, and then once you do, you can glide with the story a little easier. But they definitely don't take a whole lot of setup. They just kind of tell the story and then expect you to figure it out at some point. And some stuff gets lost in translation that way. Uh, that being said, though, I know Chad, you mentioned the robots kind of looking like the Iron Giant. Do y'all see any other influence that either may have influenced this film or come from this film? I know I looked up a few that I saw, and there were some that I was thinking through. But what do you guys think?
Well, I was actually when I was watching it, and uh, I kind of cheated a little bit, and I saw online some of the different things, so it kind of made me think about it. And Gulliver's Travels,
Mm,
uh, I just kind of saw that, okay, this is a mythical place that he was out searching for. This was at the time they thought it was a mythical castle in the sky, that they were searching for. And they didn't want anything. They didn't want to be part of the army. They didn't want to be a pirate. They just wanted to know the truth. And I kind of saw that from that. That was what I most got out of it. Chad, how about you?
yeah, the robots with Iron Giant, but also the floating city, the castle in the sky, almost reminds me of the Last Airbender. The series, even the movie, if you really go at it, just because the airbenders were more up in the mountains and in places like that. So I can see that.
Yeah, I can definitely see that too. Actually, before this started, because that wasn't the one that I had like quote unquote officially seen, but I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, actually, a lot of the machines kind of seem very Avatar: The Last Airbender esque, just that big heavy metal chunkiness. Dave, you're muted.
Would help. It would help if I unmuted my mic, wouldn't it? So if anyone watching, you see me over here talking away and nothing's coming out. But I kind of also thought, I know we watched Star Wars not that long ago, but for the sequel, Empire Strikes Back, it kind of reminded me of when they went to Bespin, Cloud City. I just kind of got that vibe a little bit from that. Just a whole city in the sky. I mean, I don't know too many other movies that did that. I know there's other ones. I just can't think of them off the top of my head right now. But that's just another one of those. That you said. What kind of vibe did you get out of it? That was just another little vibe I got.
Oh yeah. And now, like officially researching wise, because I was like, it seems like it would have influenced stuff or been influenced by stuff. If you look at some of the Mario airships, and I think there was another video game that uses the airships, some of that's real close. And I think Final Fantasy, the series, as a game,
Mhm.
actually took Laputa as a very like concrete idea and used it, and it was directly influenced by the film. So there's definitely some out there, and it's interesting to see how they took some stuff and may have other people may have used some stuff from it. It's just the way I guess media and pop culture goes as well. Um, that being said, one of the things I didn't actually officially send to y'all as a question, but I thought of as we're talking. Um, I know you guys say you enjoyed it. What did you think about the score, the actual music behind the film?
I liked it a lot. I really thought the music was yeah, I was grooving, especially when they finally got to the actual to Laputa itself. I was just like, that's cool. That's cool music. And not only the score, I thought when they picked the English dub, because I'm sorry, we don't. I can speak Skoshi, very little Japanese. Okay, and uh, when they picked the score, or not the score, but the actors, I really, really, really enjoyed Mark Hamill. Everyone's like, "Oh, Mark Hamill, okay, Luke Skywalker, he's the coolest," But a lot of people should know that he voiced all the Joker in almost all of the animated series all throughout the 90s and then 2000s and so on. He made such a good bad guy. you know I mean, he
He
really did.
definitely does.
Yeah, I mean, it just you could tell, you know he was still confined with what the script said, but you could tell he put his all into it and just had a ball doing it. I mean, Chad, what did you think about either the acting or the music?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the music. To me, it's just you haven't heard it anywhere else, but other than like anime stuff that where you watch it's a little scory, but I like it. I like the acting. I was especially enjoying Mark Hamill. So to me, it was all decent.
I don't know why
There you
I
go.
expected Mark Hamill to be the lead character, not I can't pronounce his name. Mustafa, the bad guy. And
Yes,
I'm is it Mustafa? I mean, I'm getting it
it's
confused.
close.
That's
I'm getting it confused with the Lion King. So
you know,
That's all right. And I guess by popularity you would, but man, he just plays such a good villain all
yeah,
the
he does.
time.
He really
That
does.
just it makes it so hard to change up from that at this point for him. And the reason I ask about the score too, like again, the Disney esque behind any of the Studio Ghibli movies is kind of that the film plus the music, and I think they do a good job at it, even though they don't necessarily do quote unquote sing songy stuff.
yeah. See, the thing is, I liked it. Um, yeah, I liked it. To me, is with Mark Hamill being there, he surprised me of who he was.
Mhm.
So, beginning of the movie, it's kind of hard to figure out who you think they were the good guy, and then the pirates were the bad guy, and then all of a sudden it flipped.
Yeah, that happens in a lot of anime. Things, aren't exactly what they seem. You're thinking at first, oh, the pirates are the bad guys, and then they're like, nope, the government is. Just like in 2023. I mean, I didn't say that. Oh, I did say
Oh,
that,
what?
Oh,
didn't
what's
I?
that?
We're gonna mute that part out of it. All right.
Goodness gracious. Well, all that
Yeah,
being said, with the things you enjoyed, what about some of the things you didn't? What might you have changed about the film?
Chad, how about you start? Because I've got some points. Have you got any ideas?
Oh Lord. Yeah, I would change the railroad scene. To me, is just chasing the girl down the railroad for a pennant. Literally, I mean, do it a few miles, well, a couple of inches, and then get off. I would love to see them go down in the mines going after them. To me, that would be me.
Huh. Okay, I can see that for sure. For me, I would have. I think I guess I'm a romantic at heart. I would have liked to have seen it be a love story. you know Actually, of those two falling in love, and actually the journey that they were going on. There was a couple times I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna kiss her, and then I was like, and then I mean, typical anime, oh, I just love you and just give you a big hug, or whatever. But that's what I would have done. um I really liked all the scenes, especially up in the clouds. I thought that those were done extremely well, and I wouldn't change, I don't think, any of that. And when they got to the actual the actual castle, I think there might have been a couple of things I might have, tweaked on a little bit. I liked that first when he went up there and they saw the one robot, and it was just taking care of everything else. But to me, I thought that there shouldn't have been all those additional robots to fight at the end. I thought that, okay, these were the protectors and they're gone. There's only the one left. So now why are they bringing all these other people back? You know, that's just kind of what my take on it.
I mean, that's fair. And even me, I mean, minor changes, I would have probably changed the pacing a little at the beginning. And then the other thing I think more major I would have fixed, I think having that general guise of what is Laputa was good. But once they made it, I would have loved to have seen, like, maybe they found a room or something that would have explained the history a little more, or even when the
Yeah,
villain kind of
why
starts in
they
this
left,
monologue.
yeah,
Yeah,
the whole
just some
monologue.
explanation in there somewhere, like where they would have done a flashback, something to explain more about it. Because I get that it was important and I get the legend behind it. And I think that was very good in the front half of the story. But once they made it there, I think they could have definitely lent themselves into it a little more.
What you just said, I think that having a flashback of like her grandmother actually, leaving, and why she was leaving, I think that would have been, that would have just been really good, just on top of it, just like, boom, this is why. Not just, oh, we left because, but actually show us why. I mean, instead of just saying why, just show us. I think that would really be a nice, like the icing on the cake, so to speak.
All completely fair. Well, guys, I mean, that's all the questions I had. Do y'all have anything else you wanted to add to it?
I kind of figured this was going to be a little shorter episode
Mhm.
because none of us really came in here with any preconceived notions of what this was about. Uh, I do have an animated science fiction movie on my template that we'll eventually get to. Don't want to do it right away, obviously. But well, speaking of that, I mean, Chad, unless you got anything else, do you have anything else here? Nope. Okay. All right. So if nobody else has anything, we're gonna go ahead and let me add this back on here. So this week, you guys all saw we did Castle in the Sky. All right. Next week, it's a good thing this was kind of short because next week we have a feeling it's going to be extremely long, or maybe not extremely long, but just longer than it has been. We are going to be watching Back to the Future, the entire trilogy, all three movies. So that that is our plan, is to watch all three movies and discuss them. We have no idea how we're going to do this. I don't know if we. I don't think we're going to pick. Hey, the first movie, the second movie, the third movie. I think each of us are just going to come up with our own questions for each person, and then and we'll go from there. So anybody else got anything? Chad, John, anybody else? Nope. Just nodding your head no. Yeah. Okay. Well, everybody, we appreciate you guys listening to us. Again, follow us on Twitter. You can send us an email, or you can see both Chad and I've got ours. I'm at the David Wash. I'm on Twitter as that, and then Chad is at tech_sci-fi_guy. So with that, we peace out.